Well, yo-ho, hello there, and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem, and today we have a double unboxing, as promised in the stream. We're going to be unboxing and testing supplies in both Upcrate and Scrawlrbox, and these are the April boxes. Just wanted to thank everyone once again for their kindness and donations for our charity, both in our live stream and out with that too. I really appreciate it from all of you. We did raise over £200 for Tiny Changes, which is a Scottish charity that helps people, young people specifically, with mental health. So let's get down to business here. I think we'll start with Upcrate. It's kind of winking at me and I don't know why. This is of course the monthly subscription box from Germany. The concept behind both of these boxes is that we have surprise supplies in the box along with a prompt, and we create an artwork with the supplies to fit the prompt. It's also packed with tips and tricks, and there's usually a featured artist as well to give you some inspiration and just some general arty goodness. Ooh. So straight away I can see we've got some Artspace supplies here. Artspace is the Upcrate sort of own brand products. Look how pretty these stickers are. Sophie McPike, so that is the featured artist. And here is our featured artwork. This looks like pens of some description, just going by the background. You can see here that this sort of texture makes me think pens or markers. Oh, how cute. This is nice. I like it. Sophie is a funny little blob who lives under a leaf, under a tree, under a cloud, under the stars, where she paints, scribbles and sculpts. That's hilarious. She does have an Instagram as well if you'd like to check that out. So quite sort of quirky. And this is our QR code to get to our magazine, because they do not provide an actual physical magazine in this box anymore. It's to keep shipping costs down. Okay, so we've got some paper here. This, I might rescind my previous statement. This is very textured. It's like stripy. Again, I love to be able to show you this on the camera at this stage, but you'll soon see when I start using the materials on it. We do have 5 sheets. It is very thick. I'm assuming this is a cold press watercolour paper just due to the texture. The reverse side is much smoother though, so hopefully we'll be able to utilise both sides of the paper. Let's see what's in this little Artspace box. Oh, it's a dip pen. It's a glass dip pen. These are so pretty. I have several of these, and they are basically just fancy ornaments because I don't use ink very often. This one's beautiful. I don't know if they're all the same, but this is lovely turquoise with sort of silver foil. That's the kind of lighter fleck that you can see here. You can see the end, and you can see there's a sort of it's almost like a spiral pattern that twists around this nib, and basically when you dip that in the ink all sits in these little grooves. That's basically the inkwell. These work surprisingly well. There's something very pleasurable about it, and I'm sure for anyone that likes to do hand lettering or calligraphy, if you don't already have one of these, you're going to have really good fun with it. In terms of using it for art, that also explains, when I was talking about the texture in the featured artwork, that explains this perfectly. So I'm assuming we're going to get some ink with this, otherwise we're in trouble. Let's take out this pretty purple packaging. Okay, we've got 2 polycolour pencils. I've talked about these a couple of times before. These are kind of like unsung heroes, these polycolours. I like them a lot, and I don't think they get enough press, truthfully. I did have a couple of tins in the stash shop at one point, but they're long gone. But I highly recommend these pencils. They're a really nice middle ground, and we've got a mountain blue and portrait peach here. We've also got a Van Gogh watercolour brush, and this is a size 4. That's a great size. I like a 4. Good shout. And this is a synthetic bristle brush. If I just take that off there, you can see the point on it. That looks pretty nice. So this is obviously Talons, Royal Talons, who are everywhere just now with their art supplies. The Van Gogh stuff's really reliable. So yep, good stuff with that. And in the box, what's in the box? Oh, hello. Okay, here we go. This is a name that, unless you're German, can be very difficult to pronounce. So apologies in advance. But this is Rohrer and Klinger. This obviously is ink. We've got magenta, we've got cyan blue, and we have got yellow. And they're in these wee dropper bottles, which are just great. They are glass. Come on, hand, you can do it. Yeah, there we go. Oh, look at that colour. Oh my goodness. So you've got a lot of control, and what I tend to find with these types of inks is a little goes a very, very long way indeed. Pigmented drawing and calligraphy ink, resistant to erasing and waterproof. Ooh, it's waterproof. Now, I'm interested to find out if that's waterproof as in water resistant, or it's waterproof when it's dry, because most of these inks you tend to be able to dilute with water and you know, to give you a sort of more delicate washed out look. So again, we'll try that out. We'll probably find out a little bit more about that when we look at the information. I'm glad we've got the primaries, that's helpful. So yeah, good stuff. Looking forward to trying them out. Okay, right, let's see if we can get this down so that you can read and don't have to listen to me if you don't want to. Okay, so the Rohrer and Klingner calligraphy ink, 12 milliliter bottles. Pigments, Rohrer's pigment calligraphy ink is produced with modern raw materials, namely acrylic resin. Ah, acrylic, right, okay, so that explains the waterproofiness. The resin we apply as a vehicle to the watery base is translucent and resistant against amber discoloration and age. The pigments chosen unite light fastness with brilliant and beautiful colours. See the colour chart. Oh, we're getting a colour chart. 24 classical modern tones, so there's 24 different colours, that's pretty good. Suitable for drawing, calligraphy and wet watercolour painting. So although it has acrylic in it, it is dilutable or soluble in water. Recommended retail price is €12. I don't know whether that's per bottle or for all three. We've got the polycolour pencils. Hexagonal softwood pencils made with an oil-based core that provides colour with excellent light fastness and water resistance. 3.8mm lead provides rich colour without the need for heavy pressure. Again, being an oil-based pencil, it's not a hard and fast rule, but generally with oil-based pencils, they're better for layering, so working in like sort of several light layers rather than smashing down like a heavy pressure layer. The core can be sharpened to a fine point for detailed works. The colour range features 72 colours that can be blended. Yep, as I say, great pencils. I like them a lot. And we've got this wee paintbrush, crafted with care, shaped by hand. Watercolour brush has a flexible has a flexible hair bundle resistant to wear. The gold synthetic hair bundle can absorb a large amount of water, has a round shape with a very fine tip for detailed working. A hair bundle width of 3.3mm. I don't think that's something I've ever worried about too much with my paintbrushes, but still, it's good to know. And here we go, our glass dip pen, a romantic writing instrument. I would say that is a very, very good description, actually. It is very romantic. They're so pretty. I've got kind of like a glass holder, so when it's sitting on the shelf it kind of sits, you know, it's held here and it sort of sits at an angle, but I've got about 4 or 5 of them. So I dust them, like see when one gets dusty I take it off the shelf and put another one up, dust the old one and put it back in the box, and everyone always comments on them as well because I've got stuff everywhere in the cave and everyone's like, oh, that's pretty. The pen is heat resistant and waterproof. The ink flows along the spiral groove and makes writing more beautiful and smoother. I'm always a wee bit kind of hesitant with stuff like that because I don't really seem to get on well with things like that, but my experience of using these glass dip pens is very positive and it's also very enjoyable. It's a bit like using a fountain pen. There's something really satisfying about it. And here is the watercolour paper. It is the Upcrate watercolour paper, so it's 300 GSM. I did say it was thick. Like the deck of a ship, the thick paper does not buckle if you work with multiple layers or wet on wet techniques. The cold pressed paper has a rough side and a smooth side, which offers best surface for your art depending on your preference. Well, straight off the bat, I'm going to say if we're going to use our dip pen, the smoother side would be much less problematic. The rough side is quite rough. I'll give you a wee demonstration. If you're wanting to get nice smooth lines across this paper, the cold press, you know, like the rough side, you might have a bit more bother with of keeping it uniform, but we'll test it out. So here's a little bit about Sophie again, and obviously our artworks. She's answering a few questions here as well. All good in the wood. And here is her how to do video. So this is the process for the featured artwork that comes in the box. This one here with the unicorns on. And it is a YouTube video, so anybody can get into that without any problems. So here is the art out of the box section with Katrin, and this is a really nice way if you don't have any inspiration at all, or maybe you're just new to art. I always think it's really nice to watch someone using the supplies just to see what they do with it, because it might just spark off a little bit of something for you. So this is like the step-by-step part. And you can see here she's used the coloured pencil to sketch out this face here, this portrait, and then she starts to add in the ink. This is lovely. Really, really nice. I like it a lot. Okay, Upcrate Battle 55. This was the one with the Ecoline markers. I didn't do anything with this, did I? No, I didn't do anything with this box. And the topic for this box is mythical, so that's quite a wide subject matter, but it's specific enough you know, to get you started. And that's something I've always had with the Upcrate boxes. I always find the prompts for me personally are either a hit or a miss. I either have an idea straight away and I'm already, my brain's going with this one, or it's just an absolute blank and it really deters me from wanting to use the supplies and create something for the prompt. So I'm glad to see that this one tickles my fancy. I'm convinced it's more the way my brain's wired up rather than anything that Upcrate do. So it tells you down here that you use the materials in the box, and if you submit your artwork you're in a chance of winning one of the big boxes of art supplies. That is us for the magazine. I use that term loosely. I've just this second received an email from Tiny Changes thanking me for my donation. So this is from the Cave live stream. So you can see that it was £220. It was a voluntary contribution to Just Giving. Once again, thank you very much, everybody. That's amazing, it really is. I think what we'll do is I'm going to cut one of these sheets of paper in half. I've got 5 sheets, so we're not short of. We're not short of paper. And we'll do smooth and not so smooth. I don't want to say rough because it's not. So I've just grabbed a wee palette here so that we can drop our ink into it. I've got my jar of clean water that I've always got, and just a little bit of paper here to wipe off the tip when we're switching colours or if we want to mix stuff. So first things first, let's have a wee bash with the pencils on both of these papers. Again, you'll probably be able to see the texture of the paper substantially with this. So these pencils, I would say they're sort of mid-firmness, but the layering ability of them is fabulous. And if I just show you here, this blue's such a pretty colour. Even on the smooth side of the paper, we can layer up pretty well. And you can see once the colour starts to get going, it's quite pigmented and it's quite smooth as well. So I'm still going there. That's a good couple of layers. Very nice indeed. Also, the pencil is firm enough if you want to use it for a sketch layer like in the magazine, then you can do that absolutely. That's not a problem. I suppose it's nice to have a sort of more delicate colour because these inks I think are going to be very pigmented. But you can see there, you can still get some nice rich colour without having to do too much. Now, if I do that over here on the cold press side, can you see the texture of the paper? It's like lines almost. This looks like a pair of pyjama bottoms. So you can incorporate that into your drawing if that's what you want to do. If you want to get rid of this, if you change direction, you can actually go with the grain of the paper and you can blend that out, you know, with some blending fluid or whatever, if that's the way you feel. But you can see that the texture is substantial on this paper. But you can see I'm able to get much more pencil down there and smoothly and uniformly compared to this side, just because we've got these ridges in the paper. There's a bit of a smell comes off that. It's not overpowering or anything, but there is a smell. Having these droppers instantly makes this ink very usable. If I was using the glass dip pen, I would make sure that it was scrupulously clean and I would just dip it straight into the bottle as long as it fits in the neck. It's much easier that way, but not everybody wants to do that. The downside, if you were going to dip into wells like this, you would either have to put out a lot of ink, because what you want to do is almost submerge that tip of the pen. If I just show you, you know, because this is the part that holds the ink up here, not down there, so it would need to be quite a full well for you to be able to do that, which is why it's better to dip it in the bottle. However, I can only go in so far. But you can see there that's picked up some of the ink. Let's go for it here. And that feels lovely on the smooth side of the paper. And you can see here that you don't think that the well situation, you know, that it's going to be able to hold that much ink. But you can go for a surprising length of time before you have to sort of restock, if you like. The other thing that you can do as well is you can tip the pen up like this. And what's happened is you can see that the ink has run up. If I show you on that side, you can see it's run up the grooves. It's so pretty. So that's another way if you want to dip in, you know, if you've got wells like this, you can do that. You can dip the tip in and then tip it up. And that'll hold some of the ink for you. I like the nib size on this one as well. It's quite a good size because it's in the middle. And you aren't going to get a big thick broad stroke. Obviously they're not designed for that. What I would like to do now is grab a dropper. Got a little pipette here. And I'm just going to add a couple of drops of water to that blue. Okay, that's a lot of water, but you can see there, that's what we can do. So we can get various dilutions. So you can play about with that and see, you know, see what it's going to look like. When you want to clean it off, I don't know if there's a proper way to do this or not. I'm not that well versed. I usually just dip it in my dirty water, so to speak. My dirty water, you know, like your paintbrush cleaning water. And then take either a rag or a bit of paper towel. And if you twist it while you're going, it'll follow the grooves and it lets you clean up any ink. So it's fairly straightforward to clean. So you can see now, if I just sort of put that in my hand, there is no hint of blue anywhere on that, and that's the advantage of having glass. So now that we've kind of looked at that, I just want to test out these other colours, and I'm going to test out the paintbrush. At the end of this, paintbrush will stain, like that's going to happen. So let's pick up some yellow. So obviously it's feeling fine on both the rough and the smooth parts of the paper. There's no issue there whatsoever. It looks quite red on the camera. It is a little bit more pinky than that. But yep, that's nice. The other thing that we can do now as well is we can grab some water. Oh, now it'll be interesting to see how well this works. How much time we've got before the ink dries. Until we can, you know, until we can no longer move it about on the paper. That's what I was getting at. You can see there that started to dry already. I can pull the colour out, but it's not that mobile, and that's more or less dry. Okay, so if we want to do this, we're going to have to be quick. So let's try it with the blue on this side. Okay, so let's try putting a little bit of water down first. And do like a bit of wet and wet. So I'm going to grab some of this blue now. Ooh, that's fun. Obviously that's diluting the colour out as well. So yeah, good idea to put some water down on your paper first and then go for it. Okay, I'm into that. That's cool. That is very cool. Obviously we can mix our colours as well. So if I take a little bit of this blue and stick it in our yellow, then that's going to give us some green. Wait till you see this. Wowee! And the more blue that we add, look at that. Superb. Okay, I am really happy with that, and these inks seem to be quite vibrant. They seem to be quite easy to work with as well. Thank goodness for the droppers. So I just want to show you the dip pen on this more textured paper. I'm aware that the sun's starting to come round and I'm kind of casting a shadow, so I'll sit slightly to the side. So I'm going to use the blue just for the simple fact that I've got a lot of it in this well here, and let's see how this goes. Yeah, it's a lot scratchier. I've managed to keep quite a consistent line there. Okay, yeah, that it's actually not bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It is not as smooth, obviously, as the smooth paper. That's kind of a given. But there's much less resistance than I thought there would be in terms of the texture of the paper. It is going to give you a little bit of inconsistency, but it's not. It wouldn't make me discount this paper for using this pen, put it that way. With a little bit of water in though, that is really pretty. Like, that's a lovely colour. So yeah, there you go. That is everything in the Upcrate. These inks seem to be very good quality. I'm quite impressed with them. Yes, yes. Again, not a big ink user, but this is something that as long as it's kept out of sunlight, these should be absolutely a-okay and are nice to bring out on occasion. So the last thing that I just want to test out is they were talking about it being waterproof. It's quite warm in the cave today. Like, it's actually, like, there's sunshine and stuff. But I just want to see now, if I grab my wee paintbrush again and grab some of this water and see what happens now. So I'm assuming the drying time might be quite substantial, but you can see hardly any of that colour came away there. So you would be able to work over the top of this. Again, we could maybe just try with this dip pen. I'll go over to this side here and let's see what we're like over the top. Oh yeah. Now that's nice, and it changes things a wee bit because we're on the layer on top. We do have that transparency of the ink though, so you can see a little bit of the yellow coming through there, and it's actually making the ink look green. So that's quite nice as well. I quite like this. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a fairly versatile set of supplies here. And for something mythical, obviously, depending on your colour mixing skills, the possibilities are more or less endless, apart from white, but obviously you have the white of the paper to help with that. And you can dilute these colours, like really water them down. See if I just take this blue that's already been diluted and dilute it out even more. But do you see what I mean? You can get really delicate shades from that by really watering it down. So maybe if you're going to go down the dilution route, maybe a big palette. We should maybe have had the giant gel palette out for this. You know, have lots of wells, lots of space to work. But it's really nice that they've given us this glass pen and a paintbrush as well. So the versatility to suit your art style or whatever you decide to do for the prompt, you know, you're not kind of railroaded into using this, and you know, because only having a glass dip pen might, well, I'm thinking like backgrounds and stuff, it's going to limit you quite substantially in terms of what you can do. But they've had the good grace and sense to give us a paintbrush as well, and it is quite a reliable paintbrush, and it is very proportionate to the paper that we've got as well. So I, for one, am very impressed with this. Would love to hear your thoughts on the supplies, the combination of the supplies and the prompt, and whether or not this is your thing or not. This is very much not my thing, but this is fun and I like fun. So Upcrate for April is getting a cave thumbs up for sure. Just a quick edited to add, I realised just as I was starting to clear up there, I never showed you the pencils over the top of the ink either. I just want to show you that really quickly. It goes without saying that the pencil's going to go over the top of the ink. That's kind of like standard, and obviously we can see it in the featured artwork. We do have this degree of transparency though, so this paler colour, especially if you're using the ink in its full strength, you're probably not going to see much of this pencil, but it does indeed go over the top there. You can see that there. So thought I'd better add that in. But we're not done because we've got another box to unbox. Had to change the lighting a wee bit. Things were getting a bit fancy there. So this is Scrawlrbox. This is the UK monthly art subscription box. More or less the same format, except you get sweets in this box as well. And the magazine format's slightly different. So I shall show you that also as we go. Oh, the pretty colours. Oh, the pretty colours. So we've definitely got coloured pencils, which makes me happy. This is the featured artwork, and it's obviously a shop front. Summer's Store, and this is by Maisie Summer. And there's lots of interesting things around it. There's a colour chart in the window, which I love. And there's also tea and sugar, so this makes me think this might be a British artist. Okay, so Maisie is an illustrator and animator, often around themes of heritage, community, food and culture. There we go. We drink tea in the UK. Yeah, I like this. This is lovely. It's very not whimsical, that's the wrong word, but it's got that nice quality to it that makes someone's artwork stand out. We also have more watercolour paper. This is a Scrawlrbox watercolour paper, 200 GSM, but this is hot press paper, so this is smooth. Jem likes the smooth. There is 10 sheets in that. So let's see what's in the little bundle this time. I always love it when I see one of these little Derwent boxes. Generally, I'm a huge fan of the Derwent pencil ranges. Ooh. Now, this is very convenient. These are the Derwent Inktense pencils. So these are water-soluble pencils. They're not watercolour pencils. They are ink-based, hence the name. And we have, I talked about these in the live stream. No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. My next video after this one is going to be using Inktense pencils, so we're going to be all Inktensed out in a week's time. We're going to go back to the Ink House by Rory Dobner, and we're going to use some Inktense pencils to do some adult colouring. So we've got lime green, baked earth, olivine, orange sorbet, pink flamingo and iron blue. Iron blue is one of my favourite colours in the set as well. I am so happy to have these. These are so versatile, they're so much fun, and you can create really cool stuff with like minimal effort. So I am super happy to have that set. Quite an interesting colour choice. And the next thing we've got is a Pro Art Polar White Nylon Synthetic Brush, and that is a detail brush. Look at that bad boy. We like a teeny tiny tip here at the cave. So this is a number 2. synthetic bristles, obviously. The only thing about these brushes, and they're very nice and they're very pretty, when you've got white synthetic bristles like this, they tend to stain very quickly, so they don't keep their crispy whiteness for very long. But aside from that, I use Pro Art brushes all the time. These brushes are fairly reliable, and this one obviously is great for detail work, wee fine lines, so really happy to have that too. The reason that we've got a paintbrush, obviously we can use them with our Inktense pencils, but we've got a tube of gouache here, and this is the Daler Rowney Aquafine gouache. I love gouache, it's zinc white, this particular one, and again the Daler Rowney stuff's reasonably good quality. I would say it's student grade paint, the Aquafine stuff. But for what we need it for, this is good for highlights. Fairly versatile as well, because you can water it down so it's a bit more like watercolour consistency. You can certainly do some interesting things with that. I'm hoping that we can use the Inktense pencils and the gouache together, in that we can go over the top of the gouache once it's dry with the Inktense. That would make it super versatile. I would like that very much. Here's our wee sticker that matches the front of the magazine. Super cute. And we've also got a Chupa Chups cola sticks. So squishy, squishy sweeties for us. Love it. I love that we've got Inktense pencils. That's amazing. They will go straight into the stash shop, as I have a full set of them. When we're swatching them out, I'll go and dig these colours out and I'll use my own ones, so when these go into the stash shop they will be absolutely brand spanking new. They will still be listed as used supplies because we've opened the box, etc. So you can grab yourself a wee bargain if you've got a handful of these and want some more, or if you just want to try them out. It's a really low cost, risk-free way of doing it. We do try and keep the prices very sensible here in the cave. You can go to the website here where there's loads of other goodies on the stash shop as well on the website, so you can check that out there and pick yourself up something nice or something newish. So let's take a look at our scroller zine then. Here we've got the overview of the supplies, and this is our teeny tiny QR code that we use to find out a little bit more about them. Okie what's in the box? The Derwent Inktense pencils, pigment-based lead that is soluble in water with an ink-like quality. Because of this awesome combination of high-quality pigments with a water-soluble binder, you get super vivid colour results that are both super intense and permanent when dry. The one thing I will say, the downside about these Inktense pencils is if you are working with water, you have to work quickly. Once that ink hits the page and starts to dry, you don't have a lot of time to manipulate it or move it about. So I tend to put the pencil down first and then use a water brush. That method works really well for me. Again, we'll explore that a bit more in the next video as well next week. And this quality also allows for great effects when layered, as any layers underneath won't reactivate with water. That's the upside to it. You can use them on a variety of surfaces, including wood and fabric, because of their mighty pigment power. Recommended retail price $15.49. That's for the set. 6 pencils, actually. That's not too bad, actually. The Aquafine gouache, zinc white gouache, spelt wrong as well. We're still not paying attention to our typos. Come on, Scrawlrbox. This range of Daler Rowney gouache brings you a brilliant white that is opaque with fine flowing texture, excellent tint strength and great covering qualities. It layers perfectly over gouache paints and transparent watercolours, making it ideal for use with the Derwent Inktense pencils. Designer's gouache was developed to retain a pure white colour. Apply with confidence using a brush, ruling pen or airbrush. Recommended retail price $3.99. I love gouache because it's cheap. You can get really fancy gouache that's not cheap, but for half decent stuff you don't have to pay a lot of money. The Pro Art Polar Round White Nylon Brush. Tiny brush for tiny details. This little brush offers excellent spring and colour holding properties, ideal for watercolour painting. This brush is great for soft clean paint applications and the white nylon fibres maintain their shape well. The hot pressed watercolour pad. 10 sheets of ivory coloured hot pressed watercolour paper. A smooth finish but slight tooth to it, making it ideal for both watercolours and pencil sketches alike. Alike should be all one word as well, just in case you're wondering. Acid free, recyclable and biodegradable. Okay, there we go. I love the cover of this. This just makes me really happy. Oh, goodness me. Okay, so your sweet cheat, your cola flavoured chewy sweet, combining sour with a sweet fondant centre. Good grief. So here's Maisie Summer, the artist, and here is some of her other artwork. Sausages. Very good. And the interview, obviously, that I sit down and read with a cup of tea. Again, how very British. Now here comes the interesting stuff. Ho ho ho. So obviously the first thing we do is swatch stuff out. and you can see here that they've actually diluted it out, so it does dilute out quite well. Use a cotton bud of your finger to smudge while its pencil is still damp on the page. You're going to have to be quick for this. And here they've done some colour mixing as well, some layering up, and here's what the gouache looks like. And it's showing you here different ways to activate it, so directly onto the page. So that's what I tend to do, so put the pencil down and then use water on top. Dry on the page, so just use it as a normal pencil. Onto a wet page, so that will give you like, that gives you really like intense colour. If you've got damp paper and you just put the pencil straight on, or you can do it in a palette. You can shave the, you know, like you can take off some of the lead into a palette and then mix it with water. I've never done that. That's too much hassle if I wanted to do that. Same as I always say, I would just use paint. Why faff about? You do also get these Inktense colours, not the full range, but you do get them in pans anyway, so they're more like paint. I would do that rather than faffing about shaving bits off pencils, but then I'm always at risk of like taking a finger off, so there's that. So we've got lots of ways to sort of get used to these pencils, because you know, again, it's not something that everybody might have experienced. And here's a deep dive into layering up, so a wee exercise that you can do to try stuff out, which is great. And there's a full video tutorial as well. You can just go to the QR code for that too. So the artist's advice, talking a little bit about the featured artwork here and the techniques that she's used to get it to the stage, obviously that finished stage. If we come over the page here, we've got some of the entries from the 102 Scrawlrbox, which was Fire and Ice, and that was the Viviva watercolour sheets. And there's such a lovely range of styles and uses here. Love it all. The top three. It's interesting because a lot of people have stuck with the either the, you know, gone for the hot and cold thing, which, you know, like the likes of this one, which is a kind of an obvious choice. But someone has just opted to go for those cooler colours, and that's why I like it. This is lovely. Okay, Maisie's collection. As Maisie mentioned earlier, she loves a good collection, but we wouldn't know that because we haven't read it yet. So she shares her favourites from her supplies. Oh, I always love stuff like this. So she's got her on-the-go toolkit, which is heavily influenced by Derwent, I see. And I see some very familiar pencils in there. There's a wee Pigma Micron pen in there. So yeah, this is really nice as well. I love stuff like this. She does use a lot of Derwent stuff. Again, being a UK artist, I look at this. This looks familiar. That is just basically a box of gouache tubes, and that's kind of what mine looks like as well. I would like to have mine in a more organised fashion, but I haven't found a way that suited me yet. She's got some Derwent drawing inks there as well. I love that they've included this. I love seeing stuff like this, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So, Scrawler Extra, gather your thoughts, and this is talking a little bit about journaling. I used to do a lot of journaling before I started the channel. It's a really nice way to do something constructive but still be arty-farty without having to spend like a week on a piece as well. So I really enjoyed it. I don't have time to go back to it now, but I kind of miss it a little bit. But these are lovely. It's a great way to combine your art skills and be organised at the same time. Highly recommend. Okay, so as per usual, they've got the link to their Scrawler Live, which I'm never seem to be around for. I'm just too busy. This one is the end of the month, so it's the 30th of May, it's a Thursday. It's always at 6 in the evening UK time, so that's British summertime just now. And more importantly, the Scrawler Challenge is hodgepodge. Scrawler's what's in stock today. This month's box is all about documenting a patchwork of possessions. Take inspiration from our featured artist by collecting your thoughts, a mishmash of items or the ingredients of your day. Shop front or jumbo sale, however you wish to display your wares. Plan, sketch, mark, make and paint with all the supplies included to bring your collection to life. The first thing that springs to mind for me with that is Lego. I recently sorted out a massive box of Lego. Building the big complicated Lego sets is one of my other hobbies that I don't have much time for. And these bright colours that we've got in this set would actually lend themselves really well to some of the Lego bricks. So I might pursue that again. We'll wait and see. I'm still kind of short on time just now. But that is a lovely prompt, and I love the direction that they're kind of like nudging you into. That really, really suits me, and I would be up for doing something with that particular prompt. I'm going to go and get these colours. So some of these colours that have come in the box are the newest Inktense colours that have come out, and they've been out for a while now, but I just noticed it with Olivine, or Olivine depending on how you want to pronounce it, and the Pink Flamingo. Mine are like literally unused, so that's quite nice as well. But anyway, I've got my own set here. You can see Baked Earth might be a favourite. So I'll pop these into the stash shop for someone to get use of, and I will show you these colours out here. So start with the Baked Earth, and I want to put quite a wide swatch out here so that I can show you the full extent of things. That we've got 10 sheets of paper, so we don't need to be shy. Yeah, so you can see there is a bit of texture there, which is quite nice. So even in pencil form, you can still, you know, they're Derwent pencils, they're still good quality pencils, but I really want to like lick down some pencil there to show you what happens when you add water to this, because it's absolutely fabulous. Okay, so that is Baked Earth. Let's go into our orange now. Orange Sorbet, this is one of the newer colours. I actually just like these as pencils, truth be told, but then again, I like most pencils, don't I? I've actually got that on the Cave business card now. My title is Chief Pencil Monster. Right, okay, so this is Pink Flamingo. This is a lovely colour. I really liked it when I swatched this out. It's a really nice mid-ground in terms of pinks, because again, you can get this really like bright, sort of fun, intense pink colour, but it can also become quite delicate, and you could use it, you know, in a different context, so to speak. We've got Lime Green, which, as you can imagine, is offensive, obviously. Looks slightly yellow-er on the camera than it is in real life, but again, if I just smash this out a little bit, you'll soon see what's what. Got a little bit of rogue pigment there. Can you see that little green fleck? That was just a slight imperfection in the core there. It sorted itself out now, though. That hardly ever happens. It's kind of fun when that happens. You're like, ooh. It's not fun if it's through the entire core, though, granted. Okay, and this is Olivine, or olive. I think it's Olivine. You know, like if something was bovine, or you know, that's my line of thinking anyway, and I'm sticking to it. If anybody wants to correct me, please feel free. And obviously, with it being green, I love this colour. That goes without saying. And Iron Blue, which is actually one of my favourite colours in the set, and I think it's because when you activate it with water, it's not what you would expect, because it looks very indigo-y here. So, you know, this is kind of like one of the surprise pencils. I use this quite often in conjunction with the Derwent Graphitint pencils, which is a graphite lead with pigment in it. The colours are much more muted and the colour range is much smaller, but this plays alongside them really, really nicely, so I quite often dip into the Inktense if I'm using the Graphitint. Okay, now for the fun part. I am going to use a water brush here just to demonstrate this. I want to keep this brush pure and clean for using with the gouache, just for the purposes of demonstration here. I've got my old faithfuls. These are the Kuretake Zig H2O brushes. I talk about this all the time because people keep asking me. You buy them in a set. I will leave the UK Amazon link in the description so that you can go and see them and look at them. And if you're elsewhere, you should be able to find them in your own country. They're very reasonably priced. I like them. I get on well with them in terms of water letdown, and I seem to be able to control it with my hand. I had a hand surgery years ago, and I have no feeling down this side of this finger. You can just see my wee scar there. That scar, tiny little scar, caused so many problems. No feeling at all in these fingers, so I regularly trap them, burn them. You can see I actually lost my pinky nail on this hand. That was working with cows, and I didn't realise I'd done it until I realised that I was bleeding. I thought I'd lost the whole nail, but we're growing back quite nicely. So I did not feel that at all. Yeah, so that's fun. But these brushes, I seem to be able to cope with them quite well, so all good. Anywho's, right, we'll start with some of the lighter colours here, so just make sure I've got a wee bit of water flow. This is the fun part. It just goes like kapow! But again, we can stretch this out and really water it out, and it will give you a much more delicate colour. My basket of rags are in the wash, so I'm on to paper towel. I normally favour a rag over paper towel, but in this circumstance we'll be fine. Okay, and here is the Pink Flamingo. So you can literally erase any sort of texture if you don't want that. You know, these are super soluble. So you can get rid of those pencil lines if you want to. Or you can pick and choose whether you want to get rid of some of them and keep other ones. Honestly, I love these pencils. Absolutely love them. Here is the orange. Look at that. I mean, it's just insane. It's like, roar! That's slightly offensive, but in a good way. If such a thing exists, that's it there. There we go. And the Baked Earth, I find this a very versatile colour because you can use it in as the oranges or you can take it into browns, you know, working with some of the other pencils over the top of it once it dries. Very, very versatile colour, would highly recommend if you're only going to buy a couple of them. This is one of the ones to go for. And the olivine, this is just lush. Oh, look at that. It's almost the colour of my bedroom walls, which was also the colour of my living room in the old house at the old cave. Super, super nice. But you can see how versatile they are. And last but certainly not least, my absolute favourite, Are You Ready? Oh, look at that. Yeah. It's actually a really vibrant blue, although it doesn't look it particularly in pencil form. But it's such a nice colour. I use that for shadows and water quite a lot. That's one of the main applications for it, you know, for your wee dark bits. So there we go. What a beautiful set of pencils. Look at that set of colours. Like, oh, how much fun is that? Most fun you can have with your pants on. Okay, so we've got the, oh good grief, we've got the zinc white gouache to try out as well. I'm going to have to let this dry, so I'll do that and then we can test out some of this gouache over the top to see what it's going to look like. Right, so yeah, nice and dry now. I can do this with it. So if I'm using gouache for highlights, I like to use it straight out the tube, but it does It does depend on the viscosity of the particular brand of gouache. So I have washed the watercolour brush because it did have transit glue or gum arabic on it to keep the point on it. If you just start dipping it in water and off you go, you have a tendency to maybe damage the bristles. So it's always a good idea to give your brushes a good clean before you start using them. So let's squeeze a wee drop of this out. Now with gouache, a little bit goes a really, really long way. Quite common for gouache to split in the tube as well. Don't worry if that happens, that's normal. All you need to do is just give it a little bit of a mix in your palette to sort of reconstitute it, is that the right word? Well, reconstitute suggests it's dried out. This is really watery though. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know whether it's because it's split. It's kind of hard to tell because it's white. That seems really runny. Okay. I don't feel like that's actual gouache we're getting. I feel like it's just liquid. I've got another bubble, look. I'm going to keep squeezing out here because that is not the consistency gouache should be. Oh, goodness me. Oh, no. Oh, I'm starting to get something that looks like paint. Right, okay. Can you see just at the edge there the actual pigment? So this has split in the tube, but unfortunately, that looks like mostly binder. Oh, there we go. Okay, so my little bit in the middle here is doing quite a lot. I feel like this has been sitting somewhere for a really long time. Yeah, this is not good. Yeah, so there's like a bunch of pigment in this bit here. And if I start to mix that, can you see the colour difference between this one and this one? This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what I was saying about it splitting, but that's quite extreme. Well, I'm not very impressed with that, guys. Because I've squeezed a huge amount out of that tube at the bottom there. This is actual gouache here. I think I'm just going to abandon ship with that. Right, okay, on the darkest colour is probably the best place to show you. Not very opaque. This, you have to leave it to dry. But straight out the tube I would expect this to be as opaque as it's going to get, and it's not. Yeah, it's not good. Just as a benchmark and as a comparison, if you're not familiar with gouache, I've been on a bit of a gouache spree at the beginning of the year. Here's one I really like. This is the Talons gouache. This tube is not new. This tube has been in use for quite some time. It is a different white, so I don't want you to compare the actual tints. But look at the consistency of it. It's sitting in a blob in there until I tell it to do otherwise. Now, it may just be that I've just got a duff tube, you know, sometimes that happens. But it's just unfortunate that I happen to be someone that demonstrates things on the internet. So I'm just going to give this brush a clean off because it's got the aquafine stuff. Now, even that in itself, even if you have a teeny, weeny tiny bit of white gouache on your brush, when you dip it into clean water, it turns to like a milk colour almost instantly. And it hasn't done that, and it's because there's no pigment in the paint that I've squeezed out. Okay, if I take some of this Talons white, you can see there, I liken it to the consistency of peaked egg whites. You know, if you're making meringue, you should be able to pull up and it sits up in a peak for a wee minute in its undiluted form. But if I show you that there, can you see the difference? So this is why I'm thinking to myself that this tube's maybe had a bit of an injury, or I say it's been sitting somewhere either like really hot or really cold. But if I dip that in there now, do you see how it's changing the water really quickly? And I only had a tiny, tiny drop of that on the end of that brush. I kind of want to squeeze it all out and just see if we can get something going. But that, I mean, that's, see it rolling about in the middle well? Like, it's not supposed to do that out the tube. This one's faring slightly better, but it's still very runny. Now, the other thing to note as well is, and because somebody will probably bring this up that does use gouache, on every tube of gouache, it tells you somewhere about the opacity of the colour. And not all gouache is meant to be completely opaque. You do get semi-transparent ones. So on the Daler Rowney tubes, it's denoted by this little square here. And you do get semi-opaque gouache. This is a black square, which means it should be opaque. If it was semi-opaque, it would be split diagonally and one side would be white and the other side would be black. And obviously if the square is white in the middle, that means it's transparent. This is supposed to be opaque and it's not. So I'm just going to put this down to a dodgy tube. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments if you have had this Scrawlrbox and you've had the same problem, or whether your tube was absolutely fine. The other thing that's kind of like puzzling me as well, it says zinc white on this label, but when I turn this over at the back here, it says titanium white. Titanium white and zinc white are two different colours. So I'm really not sure. I think I've just got a bum tube, to be honest. So to give you a demonstration of what I was hoping for earlier, if I take some of this olivine pencil, and I'm going to try it with quite a lot of pigment down, because I don't know how well this is going to work, if it's going to work at all. But let's take a really runny paint here. Obviously this does have a water component to it, so I want to see if we can activate the... Oh, we can. We can activate the Inktense with the actual gouache paint. Oh, that's fun. No idea what application you want to use that for, but I'm sure you all have got good imaginations. You can come up with something. We can actually use it as paint, and obviously the more water we have in the gouache, the more mobile the Inktense pencil is going to be. So that's quite an interesting point. So you can get some quite pastel shades as well. You play about with that. I would imagine the best way to do that would be to really water down the gouache though. You know, have maybe like 3 parts water to 1 part gouache, and you know, you would be able to get a nice sort of paint consistency as well. So that's just another way that you can use these supplies. And you can see my old Talon's gouache's holding up well there, though that's dried now. Gouache does dry slightly differently in terms of colour and sort of vibrancy as to when it's wet, so it is a good idea to wait till it's dry. And you can see that's sort of faded out to nothing. That I've taken, you know, quite a lot out the tube. Maybe giving it a bit of manipulation and a squeeze and a rumble about in the tube might help, just to sort of get things moving in there. Obviously you can't do that when you've got a near full tube of paint though. So let's see if this makes any difference. We might as well, since we're here. Man, this is going to be a long video. I'm sorry guys. Let's cross some fingers. Oh no. Oh no. No, it's still really watery. The best thing to do in this instance, I'm going to try and rescue this just to prove a point. I have lots of these little tubs. They're left over from takeaways normally, but they're really great for stuff like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the entire tube out into... Yes, look, there's the there's the pigment there. I'm just going to move this out the way so that you can see what's happening. The pigment is basically, yeah, like that's more the consistency I would expect, like toothpaste. So I'm just going to squeeze all of this out here, the whole tube. Interestingly, white gouache is something that, you know, you use it a lot in mixing, so you do tend to go through it fairly quickly, so this will get used up. And I just pick, usually when I'm painting, I just pick the first one that comes to hand. But if I've got one in a tub like this, I'll use it up first. And I'm just going to mix this and see if I can get it to, yeah, like that's better. It's a bit of a waste of paint, to be honest. Yes, right, so if you look at that compared to that middle well, look at the colour difference. Much better. This is the way it's supposed to look. Casually offhand, Jem says, yeah, if it splits, it's fine, that's normal. This is a very extreme example of that. But I would like to now test this out in this state. So now, if I go in here, oh yes, that's much better. That's what I'm talking about. This is what it should look like. This is the way it's supposed to look, so I'm glad that we've managed to rescue it. And obviously the same thing applies though. You can water it down and you can get like almost like a milky or misty effect which is kind of cool as well. So if I take a little bit of that there, so that is just the neat gouache, and even just with a water brush here, I can pick some of this up and dilute it out a little bit, and then we can go over the top of what's there. That's what I was saying about getting, you know, like maybe like a more pastel effect. So that's a really nice thing to play about with, as well as like the dilutions of your gouache, as well as how much water you use with your Inktense. So there we go, guys. That was an adventure. This is your Scrawlrbox for April. Yeah, so now that we've sorted the paint out, I really like this box. This box is right up my street, and so is the prompt as well. So I'm particularly happy. Also, the fact that we've got one of these wee Pro Art brushes, which I really, really like, that's good as well. So I would love to hear what you think of not only this Scrawlrbox, but as I mentioned earlier, the Upcrate as well. Two very different boxes this time, which is nice. So a wee bit of variety in the ranks. It's just a shame I had to massacre that tube to rescue the paint. But at least you know what to do if you do get a tube that's kind of past the point of no return, is get it to a point of return, just like this. I'm going to have loads of fun with this. And seeing as I'm going to be cracking out the Inktense pencils anyway for the next video, I might actually do something with this prompt if I can find a little bit of time. So that is it for today, guys. I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Love to hear your opinions on all of this good stuff here. I'd also like to hear if it's inspired you to create some sort of artwork, if it's with the same type of supplies or just something else. I really like to hear about people being motivated and inspired just because I'm sitting here talking about supplies. For those of you who are going to be available on Wednesday afternoon, we are having a live stream to finish our Aqua Pig and Crayola pencils. From the last live stream. That is going to be an afternoon slot. The actual stream is scheduled on YouTube, so you can go and find it now, and you can set a wee notification for yourself to remind you if you're going to be around at that time of day. So it'd be nice to see some of you then. Hopefully I will see some of you then, and for those of you that I won't, I'll see you again soon with my Inktense pencils, and we'll show you how it's done. Have a great day, everyone, and bye bye for now.